Pray with me. Father, we bless you now for all that has taken place through the service. Thank you for the singing. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you for the worship in you. Thank you for the children. But now, God, it's eating time. And God, if you don't feed us, we'll go hungry. And so we ask now that through this vessel, that you would feed us with spiritual manna. Open our spiritual eyes that we might see the spiritual realm, our spiritual ears. That we might hear what the Spirit is saying to us individually as well as collectively. And then as James said, help us not to only be hearers of your word, but doers also. Now allow the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, to be acceptable in thy sight. God, you are my strength and my redeemer. In the name of Yeshua the Christ. Amen. Look at your neighbor and say, it's time for part two. For those of you who missed out on part one, you can go to our Facebook channel, Historical Atlanta Missionary Baptist Church, all spelled out, and look at part one of From the Inside Out. If you look at it, you'll find that we did an illustration using 2 packs of M&Ms. God was gracious and gave us a sermon out of the 2 packs of M&Ms. That 1 pack was never opened. And because it wasn't open, what was on the inside stayed on the inside. The other pack, in order for it to allow what was on the inside to come out, it had to be torn. And then after it was torn, it had to be opened. And when it was opened, we found that there were cracked and broken pieces on the inside. But that God is able to heal our cracked and our broken pieces. And that if we're going to heal, we must heal from the inside out. Now somebody said, well, Rep, you can just stop right there, say a prayer, and let us go home. And I could do that. But I promised that I was going to give you part 2 of the sermon. And so, thinking of part 2, I thought about Sean and Christina and all of their coupons. And I said, you know, their coupons will be okay, but Anthony, I had to come up with my coupons. And my coupons are for Harbor Freight too. And you'll notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 11 coupons on this Harbor Freight, on this sale paper for Harbor Freight. Melissa, 11. That's 11 things that. See now. Why are they trying to get all of my business? Facebook, y'all hear that? They try to get all of my business, tell me what I need and what I don't need from the inside out. Whether I need them or not, there's these 11 coupons. Now, the thing about the coupon is that the retailer has made a promise by giving the coupon. And if you take this coupon, it has to be redeemed in order for you to get the sale price and the item that is represented. And so you understand redemption. that does not mention the name of God nor of Jesus, Yeshua, the Christ, is in one sense a love story. But then in the other sense, it's a story of tragedy. As we look, we see that an Israelite and his family travels, we said over 12,000 miles from Bethlehem to Moabite. And here it was that the Moabite people, we discovered that we knew who the Moabite people were. These were the descendants of Lot and his oldest daughter. It's recorded that the Moabites were a sinful people, but even though they were cousins, you understand, because Lot's father was Abraham's brother. But the promise that God gave to Abraham is that he would make a great nation out of him. And thus we get Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And from Jacob we get the children or the nation of Israel. And so we have the nation of Israel who is in Bethlehem, Judea. And then we have the Moabites who were cousins, but they were sinful. And because there was a famine, the sadness, there was no food in Israel. And somehow Amalek had heard that there was food in this place that they did not associate with the people who were there. And so they traveled to Moabite, and as they traveled to Moabite, Amalek and his two sons died. The two sons had taken wives, Oprah and Ruth. And now we have three widows who are in preparation to return back to Israel. Can I pause parenthetically there for a minute, which just means I want to put a comma right there to bring you into the story. Can you imagine that some of your relatives left where you were at and went someplace where your enemies were at? And when they went, some of them died and didn't make it back. Can you imagine how you would feel when they came back and then they brought some of them same folks who were your enemies with them? Can you imagine the conversation that would go? Can you imagine the hashtags, go back where you came from? Can you imagine the hashtag, we don't want you here? Can you imagine hashtag, you need to get saved? Hashtag, you should have stayed where you was at. Can you imagine what it would have been like for Ruth, the Moabite, who was comfortable in her own surroundings, now has gone to a surrounding that she is the minority and uncomfortable. Can you imagine how people would look at her when she came? They would hug Naomi and welcome Naomi and look and say, what you done brought with you? Who you done brought? Why did you bring her up here with you? She can't marry none of our men. Can you imagine the talk that would come from the inside out? But if we're realistic, there are some who would think it, but not say a thing. There are some that would get on their Facebook page, their Instagram pages, and they would share with their friends, but they would not go to Naomi and say to her what they were saying on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever other social media that they would be using, because it's on the inside. And what's on the inside must come out. Now that I painted that picture, let me give you one more brief piece of history, and then we're going to get into the lesson. If we look at this story of redemption, here it is that Naomi, now a widow, Ruth a widow, they get to Bethlehem of Judea. And there is a kinsman who is kin to Amalek. And because of the kinsman redeemer rule of the culture, he has a right and a responsibility to fulfill the kinsman rule so that his kinsman's heritage will continue. Rick, I don't think they believe me, so I'm going to read it from the scriptures. Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 5 through 10. If you have your Bibles, turn there. I want you to read it for yourself or along with me. Deuteronomy 25. We'll begin in verse number 5. Somebody who has it right away, tell the rest of them what page it is in your pew Bibles. New King James Version, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Chapter 25, page 109. Somebody want to tell me what page it is? Page 109. We're going to give you a minute. Page 109. Get in verse 5. It says, if brothers dwell together and one of them dies and has no son. Some say no son. The widow of the dead man shall not be married to a stranger outside the family. So they weren't supposed to marry outside the family, but here it was that an Israelite married a Moabite. Her husband's brother shall go into her, take her as his wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. In other words, they're going to have intercourse, and the child that is born will be for the brother who is deceased. And it shall be that the firstborn son which she bears will succeed to the name of his dead brother. Now, what does that say? The son, right? Somebody said, what happens if it's a girl? He got to do it again. Until it's a boy. All right. Y'all follow with me? Yes. It says, but if the man does not want to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate to the elders and say, my husband's brother refuses to raise up a name to his brother in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Then the elder of his city shall call him and speak to him. But if he stands firm and says, I do not want to take her, then his brother's wife shall come to him in the presence of the elders. Who did she come before? Remove his sandal from his foot. And what does it say? I'm glad you read it. You on the same page I'm reading. And answer and say, so shall it be done to the man who will not build up his brother's house, and his name shall be called in Israel the house of him who had his sandal removed. This was the law. And so we find that Boaz fulfills the law with Ruth. But I want to go back and just look at 3 things from Ruth. Can I do that? First thing I want to say is that Ruth had compassion. Look at verse number 1 of our text in Ruth. Now it came to pass in those days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judea, went to dwell in the country of Moab. He and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi. The name of the 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judea. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left, and her 2 sons. Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Oprah, the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about how long? 15 years. Thank you. Stay with me. Stay with me. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so the woman survived her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughter-in-laws that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. And so we find here that Ruth, who decided that no matter what Naomi told her, that she was going to go with Ruth to her land and to her country. She had compassion. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed somebody to have compassion on you? When you knew that you were in the wrong, but you needed somebody to have compassion on you? When you knew that there was a time that you had money and could do what you needed to do, but now you don't have money and your credit cards are run up and you can't charge anything else, and there's nobody else to borrow any money from because you borrow from everybody that you can borrow from, but you need somebody to have compassion on you and your situation. Have you ever been there? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, has that been in you? If you've been there, you understand how it feels. It's uncomfortable when you need somebody to have compassion on you. You have to humble yourself and eat humble pie. You have got to submit yourself and you got to put up with what you got to put up with in order to get where you need to get to, in order to feed your children, in order to pay your rent, in order to keep your car running, in order to get on the bus to go where you need to go to work. You need somebody to have compassion on you. But what about you? If you had compassion on somebody who needed you to show them compassion, it came to you with a need and you say, well, especially men, I'm guilty, Deacon Harmon. Tell a man you need to work. So you get M-O-N-E-Y, you need a J-O-B. You look at someone and say, I work for what I got. You need to work for what you got. We heard the folks of old say, you made your bed. And now you gotta lay in it yourself. Another what they're saying is you put yourself in a situation that you're in and you want to come to me and get me to get you out of it. You need to get yourself out. But was it not Christ the Redeemer? Who recognized that all have sinned and fallen short of his glory, and that all needed his compassion, that gave us compassion. It was the French writer Milan Kundera that said, for there is nothing heavier than compassion. Not even one's own pain weighs so heavy as the pain one feels when for someone, a pain intensified by the imagination and prolonged by 100 echoes. Compassion will bring tears to your eyes. Compassion will cause you to walk an extra mile. Compassion will cause you to do what you otherwise would not have done. Compassion causes you to put yourself in the other person's place. And realize that you too could have made a mistake. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you ever made a mistake? I have. Yeah, somebody said you could have left the I have off. But the truth is that all of us have made mistakes. For new spouses who say your spouse never admits to anything, today they admitted it, whether they wanted to or not. Compassion deals with our emotional man. It is powered by the heart, the spiritual heart that is. When we can never touch compassion with our hands, yet we can wrap a grieving, disdained, despondent, or depressed human with our compassion. Ruth had compassion for her mother-in-law, or some say her mother-in-law. Hosanna, Facebook. There is no classroom course that can teach us how to be compassionate. Rather, it is the classroom of life. And Sister J, what I learned is that the more one goes through, the more compassion they can have. The longer we live, the more compassion that we can have. And I will submit to you that the more God we get in our hearts, the more compassion we can have. Look at the neighbor you ain't bothered today. Say, neighbor, it comes from the inside out. It's this God's love that transforms our inner person to the point that we see past the exterior. We hear more than what has been said, and we feel more than what they feel. Not with our hands, but we begin to do it with our inner person. When you can look at a person and you can feel their hurt, when you can hear what they're not saying in their voice. Have you ever been there? Have you ever needed somebody to hear what you wasn't saying? You had too much pride to say it, but they could hear beyond the words that were coming out of your mouth. It's like God sometimes when you want to pray, but you don't know what to pray. You don't feel like praying. God knows what you need. Can I tell you that Jesus had compassion? In Matthew chapter 9, we find that Jesus was teaching. It says Jesus went through all the towns and villages teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. Can you imagine? Can you see Jesus, one man walking through a town, coming through Augusta, and all the sick are following him, and he's healing their sickness and healing their disease? Can you picture it in your mind? Can you hear the jubilee of those who have been sick, and those who have had diabetes, those who have heart congestion, those who have cancer, that Jesus now has healed them? Can you see it? Can you feel it? Jesus had compassion on those that came and that he saw. The Bible tells us in Matthew 14 that he saw the crowd of 5,000 that was hungry. He tried to get away privately with it, but he saw them, and the word says he had compassion on them. Told them to sit down. Asked anybody if they had a sack lunch, if I can use my spiritual imagination, that there was one boy that had a sack lunch. He didn't have much. Mama didn't have a whole lot when she sent him out. He just had a few fish and a little bit of bread. It was just enough to keep him from being hungry. Jesus took it, and Mama got upset about it. Why are you taking my baby's lunch? I forfeited eating myself so that my child could eat. And then he took it and he blessed it and he fed everybody because he had compassion. Are you willing to take your last? Because you have compassion on somebody and give to them what you would have kept for yourself. Compassion will cause you to move in a way that you normally wouldn't move. And one other time, while there's many others, Jesus saw two blind men and he asked them, "What did you want?" I can paraphrase it. They said, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." And the Bible declares in verse 34, Jesus had compassion on them and he touched their eyes and immediately they received. You ever ask somebody just what they needed and then was prepared to give it to them? Well, I gotta move on. From the inside out is where compassion comes from. But not only did she have compassion, because you can have compassion and be moved, but you're not committed. What are you talking about, Rev? You know, if you go down to the courthouse, there's folks who had compassion one for another, but they weren't committed, and so they get a divorce. You can have compassion on HHNBC. We need the wall fixed. We need an air conditioner paid for. We need a new organ. And we need this and we need that. We need the education center built. And you can have compassion for one thing and then you're not committed and you're not going to have compassion for anything else. And so what we see in this lesson is not only was Ruth, did she have compassion, but she made a commitment. Look at your neighbor and say, are you committed? Verse number 7 said, therefore she went out from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on their way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to the 2 daughters, go return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. In other words, Naomi saying, look, you girls have been good girls. You were good wives to my sons. But now I'm going home so you can get another man and you can have a family. I'll be all right. I'm just going to go on back home. Verse 9 says, the Lord grant that you may find rest each in the house of his husband. Then she kissed him and they lifted up their voices and they wept. You can imagine the emotions that were going on. And here it is, Naomi is getting ready to leave her 2 daughters-in-laws. And they are upset and they're crying, they're reminiscing of the 10 years that they have spent and all the times that they have shared. Here is verse 11, Naomi says the second time, but Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go, for I am too old to have a husband. I can't help you out anymore. I'm not going to have any more sons, and if I do, are you going to be chased and waiting? What did Ruth do? Ruth, in verse number 14, she clung. She stuck with her. You know, some of us we look for an eye. You need some money? No, I'll be okay. Okay, see you later. In a relationship, you want to keep this relationship going? Well, I don't know. Okay, deuces. See you later. Sometimes we like that for God. God, you want me to do what? Okay, I see you later, God. Because we're not committed. I told you don't have to come to church every Sunday. I'm not going to tell you you're going to hell because you missed church. I'm going to miss some church. I'm going on some trips. I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going to see my mom. I'll spend some time with my wife. I'm going to spend some time with my children. I'm going to take a vacation sometime. You can take a vacation because the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob sent his son. His son gave us the Holy Ghost, so you still are saved. But commitment says that I'm going to take care of what needs to be taken care of before I leave. And then I'm going to come back. And I'm going to continue. And so are you committed? I know you're saved, but are you committed to God? Are you committed to your church family? Are you committed to HHNBC? Are you committed to the community? I know you grew up in the community, but you moved out away from the community. But are you willing to come back to make sure that those that didn't move out know the same God that you know? Brothers and sisters, Facebook viewers, it was a great football coach, Vince Lombardi, that said, individual commitment to a group effort, that is what makes a team work. Somebody say teamwork. Teamwork. A company work. Somebody say company work. Company work. A society work. Somebody say society. Society. And a civilization work. Somebody say civilization. Civilization. And Dakari, I'm going to just add on there for Reverend M, the M factor. It makes a church work. Somebody say church work. Church work. Now I want you to make it personal. Say make HHNBC work. HHNBC work. We've got to be committed. Can I just be honest? There's been a few times, Sister Francine, I ain't want to be committed. I just wanted to say the heck with HHNBC. Can I just be true? Yeah. But commitment will go past your emotions. See, when you get upset, your emotions say all kind of stuff. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You done call your spouse some stuff that you ain't had no business calling them. And then you come back and say, oh baby, you know I didn't mean it. Commitment. And so from the inside out, commitment's got to start on the inside. Commitment says, I'm going to stick with it no matter what. Sister Martha went through some times that she wanted to say, the heck with that joker. That crazy joker. I believe him when he told me he was crazy, but now I know he's crazy. But commitment. Losers didn't make 52 years without commitment. And notice it has to be both. Because just like Sister Martha said, I was crazy, I just said this woman is crazy. Sister Williams, I had 2 women from North Carolina. I said, I ain't messing with no more women from North Carolina. Y'all don't like the truth. They can't stand the truth. But you know, God has stuck with you through hell and high water. When you wanted to serve, when you didn't want to serve. When you gave and when you didn't give. When you came and when you would not come. God was still right there because he was committed. He came through when you didn't come through because of commitment. Zig Ziglar said character, it was character that got us out of bed, commitment that moved us into action, and discipline that enabled us to follow through. You know, Jesus had commitment. This news from somebody wondering, well, how do I know that Jesus had commitment? Well, there's a whole lot of things, but there's one that I remember. The word says he was in the garden. And he was praying after Judas had betrayed him. And he knew there was a cup of wrath that needed to be drank. There was a cross that needed to be erected. There was a human sacrifice because blood needed to be shed. For without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. And the word declares that he said, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet, not my will, but thy will be done. Look at somebody and say, Jesus is committed. And finally, not only was Ruth compassionate, not only is Jesus compassionate, not only was Ruth committed, and not only is Jesus committed to you, but Ruth established a covenant. Somebody said covenant. You understand covenant? Those who are married, if you're married, raise your hand. Those who are married. Facebook, you married? Those who were married, raise your hands. They're not married now. Yeah, so there's something called a marriage certificate. And you take a vow, whether you wrote yourself or you said traditional vows. You made a covenant one to another. In most cases, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, until death do you part. That you would not give yourself to another. but keep yourself for your spouse. You make a covenant. You understand covenant. Church, is not unusual to hear a television preacher ask supporters to establish a covenant relationship. Have you heard that before? On the radio, on the TV, the pastor says, we want you to establish a covenant relationship with us, and we want you to send us this, and you can come in at this level, or you can do it at this level, or you can be a super partner and do it at this level. Have you heard it? They want you to establish a covenant with them that you will financially support them. This covenant relationship and or partnership requires a supporter to regularly sow a financial seed of an established amount into the ministry of that pastor. I will submit to you that this is a misuse of the term from a biblical perspective. See, the Bible had several covenants. There was a covenant with Noah that promised survival. There was a covenant with Abraham that provided for selection, his seed. There was a covenant with Moses that provided for provision, protection, and security. There was a covenant with David that pronounced there would be a succession that led all the way to the birth of Jesus. Somebody ought to get happy because of that covenant. And whether you know it or not, it was through this Moabite woman that the Israelites would not associate with it. If you read the different commentaries, many of them will say that what Naomi and Elimelech did was a reflection of what Israel did to God. And that what they did was they did not trust God by leaving one place and going to another. But I don't know about what the commentaries say, but what I know is that had they not left, wouldn't be in the lineage of Jesus. There wouldn't have been an Obed, there wouldn't have been a Jesse, and if there wasn't a Jesse, there wouldn't have been a David. Had there not been a David, there would not have been a Jesus. If there hadn't been a Jesus, we have no business being here on the day. But I can be glad because Jesus made a covenant with you and with me. Close now, most covenants require blood. Jesus shed his blood. The songwriter said, I know it was the blood. I know it was the blood that saved me. How committed was Jesus? He gave his blood. Somebody say, he gave it. From the inside out. What are you saying, Birmingham? What I'm saying is that you and I have to make a change on the inside. And we need to have compassion on those who say mean stuff about us. Those that see us in need and won't help. Those who scandalize our name. Those who make the church look bad. I just be honest. There's somebody in every family who make the family look bad. Some of you can picture that person right now. You know, oh yeah, that girl on that big mountain. That knucklehead, why don't he stop running through women and get married? I know who that person is. And it could be you. But we have to have compassion. And then we have to get committed. A commitment says no matter what. See, Melissa, there's some folks that said, I'm committed as long as these conditions are met. You want to go outside the house and get some stuff? I ain't committed no more. But commitment, real commitment says, okay, you messed up. I'm going to forgive you. And I'm going to keep on going. Real commitment says that nobody else in the church will do it. I'm going to do it. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, stop waiting on somebody else. And then there's the covenant. The covenant that God made through his son for us. He'll never leave us nor forsake us. When we do communion, he says the covenant, the new covenant, the covenant of his blood. Because of his blood, I can be healed because of his blood. I got a place because he says he's going away to prepare a place for me that where he is, I can be also. And then I know you don't want to hear this, I close out. Is that my second time? You know I get 3 closes. There's the covenant that we read once a month. That we make for HHMBC. We changed this, Sister Newsom, so that we can live by it. And so I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, live by the covenant that you made. You can't do it by yourself. It's got to come from the inside. And then it comes out. So you've got to be dedicated. You've got to be direct and determined. I'm done, Chantel. I can't believe Brother Carly told me I don't need that on this thing. But there is something that, if you don't know the God that I serve, that you need. No coupon can give it to you. No M&M's pack can give it to you. He gives it to you free. So if you're here and you don't know the Lord the pardons of your sins, the altar is open. And I know you usually stand, but I'm going to let you sit. Is that all right? But if that's you, the altar is open. Or perhaps you started and something happened along the way. And your commitment ended. But see, the thing about a relationship is to take both parties to stop commitment for it to end. And since Jesus is still committed, you can come on back. Because you were backsliding. And if you're a backslider, oh, y'all sit down and do it. I'm going to do it. Anybody need to slide back today? Is there anybody? If you're on Facebook and you're a backslider, just put hashtag reconnect. If you don't know the Lord, put hashtag accept. Somebody get in contact with you. And finally, if you'd like to become a member of the greatest church in the CS. Our Christian Experience, candidate for water baptism, or on Facebook, just put hashtag connect. And you can become a part of this great body. So if not, we're standing